Uganda today remains one of the poorest countries in the whole wide world and depends hugely on foreign assistance. I want to ask you, 35 years ago, you said the problem of Africa in general and Uganda in particular is not the people, but leaders who want to overstay in power. Now, you've seen that your country has now changed the two-term rule. They've changed the age limit. And there you are going for a sixth term. Why do you think that's a good thing?
Yes, I said staying in power for a long time without democracy.
That's a lie, ladies and gentlemen. This is engaging in what we call revisionist history.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
Today, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will be sworn in for a seventh term in power. And if he completes this term, he will have ruled Uganda for 45 years. This is a reality that many of us Ugandans, especially those who grew up hearing his early speeches, find very ironic and extremely painful. You know, when Museveni and his national resistance movement captured power after overthrowing the government of Tito Okello Lutwa in 1986, he famously declared that the problem of Africa and Uganda in particular is leaders who overstay in power. At the time, those words inspired hope. Finally, many people say it across the African continent and in Uganda in particular, to use his words. We have a man who is not hell-bent on staying in power. We finally have a man who is going to serve one term or two terms and go. Many believed that Uganda was entering a new era, an era of democracy, accountability, an era of peaceful transition of power. He actually declared, he said, this is not a mere change of guards. It is a fundamental change. His words, not mine.
Nobody should think that what is happening today, what has been happening in the last few days, is a mere change of guards. This is not a mere change of guards. I think this is a fundamental change in the political.
But now, more than 4 decades later, Museveni remains firmly in control. Now, I'll tell you this. He's a complete manipulator. When he was asked after he was now pushing for 4th, 5th, and 6th term, he was asked, I think I remember at one time, he was being interviewed by Christian Amanpour on CNN, said, hey, you said the problem of Africa leaders who overstayed in power. I'll tell you what he said. Watch here.
Those youth.
So, Mr. President, as I said, they want jobs. Uganda today remains one of the poorest countries in the whole wide world and depends hugely on foreign assistance. I want to ask you, 35 years ago, you said the problem of Africa in general and Uganda in particular is not the people, but leaders who want to overstay in power. Now, you've seen that your country has now changed the two-term rule. They've changed the age limit. And there you are going for a 6th term. Why do you think that's a good thing?
You should check your facts. It is the 5th fastest growing economy in the whole world.
Now, I want to pause right there and put a caveat on what he says. He says Uganda is the 5th fastest growing economy in the entire world. According to whose standards? He's quoting these numbers that are being put out by a few organizations outside of Uganda. But if the same organizations talk about the violation of human rights in Uganda, then it says, oh, we don't care about your analysis on our country. He uses those facts when they're convenient. The moment they touch where he's going extremely wrong, He says, we don't believe what you say, but I digress. Continue.
You should check your facts. It's about to become a middle-income country. Now, regarding the politics, the management of society, yes, I said staying in power for a long time without democracy.
That's a lie, ladies and gentlemen. This is engaging in what we call revisionist history. He never said that. But even if had he said that, hey, without democracy, Uganda is not a democracy. Because this long stay in power has not been maintained through purely democratic means, but through a combination of state violence, electoral irregularities, intimidations, abductions, torture, suppression of dissent, and crackdown on political opponents. Election after election, opposition groups have seen state security apparatus being weaponized against them just to preserve the status quo of keeping Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in power. And yet, despite of all this, Ugandans who are opposed to the Museveni criminal regime continue to push forward, knowing that one day they will defeat Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Now, that is being thrown in for the seventh time. There's a feeling of exhaustion, of defeat. And like I've mentioned, it's not really difficult to understand why. I'll give you an example. One of the most prominent opposition figures, as we speak, remains in prison after being abducted from Kenya. Talking about Dr. Kizza Besigye. Another major opposition leader is practically in exile after he contested in the election, and Museveni, alongside his son, who happens to be the commander of the Defense Forces of Uganda, launched a manhunt. He declared he wanted to kill him. Is that democracy Museveni is referencing to or invoking? Oh, I said I would stay in power without democracy. Is that democracy? I mean, you can go through the tweets of his own son, whom he appointed to be the leader of our defense forces, not through meritocracy. It is complete nepotism. See what he tweets. I'm going to kill so-and-so. I've killed 20 people. Museveni himself brags about how he's a master of violence. We understand. He warned when we were headed for an election that he has many soldiers and each soldier carries a gun that has 120 bullets. That's democracy? A leader speaking to his own citizens? Hey, remember, you're going to vote, but I have people with guns. Political activism has increasingly become an identity of fear, of surveillance, of arrests and uncertainty. And to some, that's why I said that hope, it's sort of starting to feel like it is dangerous to even hope that things will change, because when you hope, you want to put your hope into action. But the moment you attempt, then you have the state security apparatus descending onto you. But I want to tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen. History teaches us something very important in this particular moment. Authoritarian regimes rarely collapse overnight. Political change is often slow. It is often painful. It is often frustrating. It is often filled with setbacks. Those fighting for reform frequently endure years of disappointment before seeing any breakthrough. That's what we see. 40 plus years now. But what matters is persistence. The refusal to surrender, the belief that a country can become more democratic, more accountable, and more free. That is what we're fighting for. Remember, we're up against a man who doesn't care. His words, not mine. I remember, I think at one time he said he was being interviewed by Jeff Koinange from Kenya and asked him, don't you get tired? And Museveni said, I don't care. I don't care about any person. I care about myself and my children and my grandchildren. I'm not working for anybody. Don't take my word for it.
Do you wake up sometimes and feel, you know what, this is too much for me. This is too much. You don't feel appreciated enough.
It doesn't matter because I'm not working for. I'm working for myself. I'm not working for other people. I'm working for my grandchildren, for my children.
He does not care at all. Is that a surprise? Absolutely not. Because he's shown us over and over again. I remember there's a video where he promised that the election wasn't going to have any sort of violence. That Uganda didn't even need observers, though we've always had observers. But he said, I would agree to having observe our elections because Africans have earned a very, very bad reputation of organizing elections that are full of violence. You can argue he was being clairvoyant, pervertedly, because that's what Uganda became. This is Museveni saying, hey, I won't need observers, but I'll bring observers for the sake. And guess how many people have always died every time we have an election? Violence, state-sponsored violence.
However, tell you that in Uganda, I can assure you, gentlemen and ladies, and all, that in the case of Uganda, we shall have free elections, fair elections. I may invite the observers just because I know outsiders are now used to observers. Because they don't trust that Africans can do anything by themselves. The Africans have earned that credit, that they are incapable, they cannot do anything by themselves unless they are being observed. Now, because of that, I will invite the observers, but they will have nothing to observe. They will just stay here, because there will be no cheating, there will be no twisting of constituencies, there will be no change of papers, there will be no violence.
He's always been a liar. He knows how to weaponize a language. He knows how to gaslight people, to manipulate them, to appear as though he cares. And in his late stage now, he always presents himself as this indispensable guy, a reluctant dictator who is being pleaded to by the Ugandan people to lead. Absolutely not. He's been rigging elections. But like I said, moments like this should not be seen as only reminder for how long Museveni has stayed in power. But it should also be a reminder that political struggles are marathons, they're not sprints. The Museveni criminal regime will fall through actions you and I do day by day. So I'm speaking to you, those who feel discouraged. The challenge now is to not give up at all. Do not even have that as a second thought. But to continue organizing, continue speaking out, continue resisting peacefully, and believing that change remains possible even when it feels extremely distant. Because history has also shown us that no dictatorship lasts forever. No authoritarianism lasts forever. There's no tyranny that lasts forever. Let's keep going. Let's keep believing. Let's keep mobilizing and organizing. Change is coming to Uganda.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.